Hi kids, this is Miss Otero. We are going to go over the notes together through this video. This PowerPoint is a little bit distorted, and so please try to listen along and fill in your notes. At the end, I will show you a screenshot of what your notes should look like, and you can pause the video then. We are covering plant interactions, and you should have already watched the gymnosperm video about germination of a mung bean. If you have not watched that, then go back and please watch that first. Then continue on with the notes. So on number 1 on your notes, we covered the 3 plant systems last class when I was there, and the 3 plant systems are the roots, shoots, and vascular. If you were to define germination, that would be a new plant growth from seeds. So when something's growing from a seed is what a gymnosperm is, or a germination is, okay? So root, shoot, and vascular systems are the 3 systems. Germination is after you watch the mung bean video. So when seeds sprout and begin to grow into plants. And number 3 says to define shoots. A shoot is new growths. So just like in this picture, it has a new plant growth and anything with the leaves, the stems, the flower, and the cones of the plant. New plant growth, stems, leaves, and flowers. Okay, what parts of the plant are derived from shoots? You should have answered leaves, stems, flowers, and cones. What are the 3 main functions of the root system? Are right here on this slide. Absorb water and nutrients from the soil and surroundings, anchor the plant to the ground or surface it's growing on, and 3, store energy and nutrients, water for future use by the plant. If this PowerPoint is going too fast for you, you can always pause it and catch up, okay? Or you can rewind even. This is the joy of having this. Next, the vascular system. The vascular system distributes water and nutrients to every part of the plant. Remember, it's like the cardiovascular system of us. It has veins, and it's going to carry our water and our nutrients around. Now, there's 2 parts. There's the xylem and the phloem. Xylem is the vascular tissue that carries water. Remember my WXYZ? And then phloem carries food. Okay? The proper scientific way to say that is it carries nutrients. Primarily sugar, if you remember it's sap. So what is sap? It is primarily sugar, and it is the food of the plant. It carries the sugar produced by the leaves, which hopefully y'all know is glucose, through photosynthesis. When plants grow, the root system and shoot system both grow in response to gravity. This response to gravity is known as gravitropism. The roots exhibit a positive gravitropism because they grow towards gravity, and the shoot system exhibits a negative gravitropism because it grows against the pull of gravity. So look at the picture behind the words, and look at the roots and how they're going down with gravity, and look at the tree trunk that's growing upwards against gravity. When the leaves become hot in the middle of the day, water can evaporate and exit the leaves through stomata. When the water evaporates through stomata, it is called transpiration. Remember, it's when a plant sweats. How are all 3 plant systems involved in getting water from the ground to the leaves where it can evaporate? So in the ground are the roots where they absorb the water. Then the water will travel through the vascular system. In which part of the vascular system? Water travels through the xylem. And then it goes into the leaves where they are a part of the shoot system, which it'll leave through the stomata. Plant cells must remain rigid and stiff for plants to be able to stand upright. To do this, each plant cell fills up the central vacuole with water. The water pressure in the cell keeps it stiff, so that it's known as turgor pressure. So, what makes the plant stand upright is turgor pressure. And what exactly is turgor pressure? Is the water pressure inside the cell. How does the plant get water into each cell to keep them rigid? Water is absorbed by the roots. The water travels through the xylem to each cell, and then the cells in the stem absorb the water and fill their vacuoles to remain rigid. And we did that experiment with the celery stick in salt water. The shoot system is vascular plants contain flowers or cones, not both, that are used to produce seeds and reproduce in the plant. The flowering plants are called angiosperms. That's a new vocab word. Angiosperms are flowering plants. They will send and receive gamete cells in order to share the genetic material. If they are producing through flowers, they are reproducing sexually. The name of gamete cells that travel from plant to plant are called pollen. These can be carried by wind, water, or a pollinator like a bee, or birds or insects, anything that the pollen will attach to and get carried to another plant. The ovaries of the flower turn into, after fertilization, they turn into fruit. So when you're eating an apple, you're actually eating the ovary of a plant. I know that's weird. Then they deposit seeds into a faraway place, traditional plant. Now, if your plant has cones, it means that it is a gymnosperm. Angiosperms have flowers, gymnosperms have cones. The term literally means naked seed because the seeds are not enclosed in ovaries, like with flowers. Because these plants do not have ovaries, they do not produce fruit. That's important to know. Many different trees like pines, firs, and spruces reproduce using cones. Male cones for a gymnosperm produce pollen. Female cones produce the ovum. And gymnosperms have two different kinds of cones, the female and the male part. While trees produce both types, male cones produce the pollen, female cones are fertilized and produce the seeds. The seeds contain new plant embryos like a baby. So inside the seed is a little plant embryo. You can see it in our little picture. And that's when the new plant is starting to grow along with the nutrients. Now, there are certain kinds of plants, and when they're right next to each other, they have to compete. They have to compete for sunlight, they have to compete for food and water. And so when it means that a plant is competing, it means that it's trying to survive. Now, some seeds are carried by the wind, and like dandelions, they have the little fuzzy feathers, or there's wings, like maple trees. And they're designed to carry by the wind, as they have feathers or wings. As you know, it's kind of an adaptation. Burrs or sticky bugs attach themselves to the fur of animals so they will not be carried away, or so they will be carried away, and will later rub off or scratch them off in a new location. And then we have coconuts that are buoyant, which means that they can float, and they typically grow in tropical climates along the shoreline and allows their seeds to be carried from island to island by the ocean currents. And last but not least, there are some seeds that animals will eat and then deposit the seeds away when they digest their food. And those are all going to be colorful and tasty. Now, all seeds contain large amounts of energy. And which system produces the plant's energy? Should be the shoot system, because photosynthesis happens in the leaves. Now, how does the energy get from the leaves to the fruit? It's through the phloem, or the vascular system. Now, this is what your notes should look like on the front, and your notes should look like on the back. If you have any questions, go ahead and write down your questions and turn this into your teacher.